everyone, Alex at Coram Farm. Today I am with my flower bestie, Allison from Sunshine and Stems. If you are new to our channel, I have interviewed Allison before. You definitely should watch that interview because in it we talk about how year 1 and 2 went for us. And we have very different farms. And so I thought it was a very helpful conversation talking about how we do things differently. We grow different flowers. We grow them in different conditions. We sell them differently, all of that fun stuff. I will link that in the description below. But that video did so well and we got such good feedback of everyone liked listening to Allison and Allison's thoughts. We planned to do a spring recap video. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is how spring went specifically for Allison. We're going to talk about what she grew, what she loved, what she didn't love, what she's going to grow again, what she is scrapping, things that failed, things that did awesome, all of that. And then I'll interject with my questions and some of the comparisons of how our farms are different. But I will also put Allison's Instagram handle in the description. It's Sunshine and Stems. She grows, just for a little recap if you're new, she grows 40 minutes away from me on the south side of Tulsa. I'm north of her. So we grow in the same climate. So that's how we became friends, talking about like, how are you dealing with cucumber beetles? And when did you plant your snapdragons? That sort of chatter. But our farms are very different. She sells at a farmer's market and primarily to florists. And so her color palettes are different. Her flower choices are different. Allison also doesn't live on her farm yet. She's going to in the future. But as of year 3, which we're both in, she doesn't live on her farm. So that adds in a whole other schedule difference that I don't have. And she doesn't have a high tunnel. This year was our year with a high tunnel. She has low tunnels and that presents its own challenges. And we'll talk about that of how she gets all the beautiful flowers she does without a high tunnel. So let's talk about spring. So let's start with, what did you grow for spring? Her list is always longer than mine. That's another difference in our farm.
Like month by month?
Yeah, whichever's easiest of.
Yeah.
Oh, and I will say for you guys in the north that don't know Oklahoma, when I say spring, I mean March. April, and honestly, like the beginning of May. We haven't, it's mid-June.
Barely.
Yeah, it's mid-June now. And like if celosia is blooming, it's summertime. I don't care what the calendar says. So for us, spring has actually been over for what feels like 3-4 weeks, probably.
Yeah, like all my spring flowers have been done for weeks.
Any flower that would be in like Lisa Mason Ziegler's book has been done blooming since mid-May for us. So that's what we're calling spring. For you guys up in the north, like in Michigan and whatnot, this probably bleeds over a bit into early June for you guys, but that's just not what we have. It was 95 today.
Yeah, it's extremely hot.
We are full on. Don't at me with the calendar because it is summer.
If it's zinnias,
celosia,
basil, like it's summer. It's summer flowers.
And we've mentally so far moved from like feeling like Ranunculus was a lifetime ago, right?
Yeah.
When we had Ranunculus.
When I see posts on Facebook of people like still with Ranunculus or like
peonies
and like recently like still even like tulips. I'm like, whoa, we're on another planet.
Are you in the Arctic? Because
well, I think up in, like I saw a post in like Idaho or Utah, they had a frost warning last
in Montana
night.
They have like snow. Like, I don't know how you guys.
They're like, how do I cover my zinnias? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating.
And they'd come down here and then just like melt.
Yeah.
Be like, how do you guys live?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with March. So our sales start in March. Things start blooming in March. So what did you have that you grew?
So March was mainly tulips.
Yep.
And I think towards the tail end, daffodils.
Yes.
Tulips were before daffodils.
And how do you grow your tulips? Because it's different than how I grow
so this year, it was my third try, obviously. Hadn't found super success with them in the past. So I was not super optimistic, but hopeful, trying a new way this year. So
you're a huge tulip hater.
I was not happy with tulips after last year. I threw a lot of tulips away last spring.
We had some bad, we had wrong varieties. You had some short ones.
Wrong varieties, tons that were too short, and a lot of aborted blooms and just stuff like that. Like just tossed so many of them. But this year I decided, so last year I also bought a lot of pre-cooled bulbs, which a lot of people do. But I think for our zone, I don't even trust that anymore.
Not enough.
It's not enough. It's still not enough, even pre-cooled. So I prefer now to not order pre-cooled and get them as early as I can, shipped to me, and I will cool them myself in a cooler, or like I just have refrigerators right now. So I put all my bulbs in the refrigerators. I think I got most of them like in October.
Same with us.
So sometime in October, put them in the fridge, left them in there for October, November, December, and I planted in like early to mid-January.
Yeah,
early January. I think first week of January I planted.
So they probably got 8 weeks, if not 10.
Yeah, probably
Of the pre-cooling that we did.
at least, yeah, 10 to 12.
And then probably
I
like
think.
4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah,
in,
and
like,
some
climate.
cool, because we got I did it right before we got the Arctic blast, so they definitely got more cooling after that.
Extra cold.
I was so nervous because I did mine in crates, a lot of mine in crates, and I was just like, oh my goodness, are they just gonna rot?
Like, can they freeze and thaw like that? Yeah.
I didn't know, so I was definitely nervous about that, but yeah, so I did the majority of mine in crates, and I did some in a raised bed, but the crates is how I'm gonna.
They looked so good.
They were tall. They were beautiful. I had very little
earlier
loss.
than mine. It could have been a little bit variety dependent, but you had tulips at least 10 days, if not more, before me.
Yeah, and it was still
like
February.
The second week you were looking at me and you were like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, because I intentionally planted in January so that I did not have tulips in February, because there's not a market for that here, really.
Yeah.
February is not a busy time for florists. Some might have subscriptions, things that they're buying flowers for, but like you don't want to have like boatloads of flowers in February.
And we're not going to do the like forced tulip world.
Yeah, no, that's too hard. That's way
happening.
too hard. Not something that I'm interested in.
We want to take the winters off is what we're saying.
Yeah, definitely focus more on like March, April, when you have more outlets for sales, for sure.
So your tulips were awesome, and your market, you're not at the farmer's market yet. So you're having to sell all of these tulips to florists.
Yes.
And a couple to your spring CSA.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
How did those sales go when you were just selling the tulips? Did the florists like them? Did they like the varieties you chose? Were you kind of like, I need to lean in maybe more to this color palette and away from?
Definitely. Yeah. Of course, they like the pastels, like anything pink, anything pastel. I think Flaming Margarita was like definitely the florist favorite that I had this year.
That's a good name.
And of course, that's the one that was like sold out, or they canceled for my order this year. I was like,
naturally.
Of course, yes. So I won't have that one this year, but
so soft tones, light pinks, peaches,
and Labella Pock is always. Are
they into it?
Yeah.
I always wondered if that was just like an overrated fake thing.
Obsessed with it.
They are.
I only had 100 that I planted, and they were snatched up. Like,
did you get more for next year, or did you get a cancellation?
I haven't gotten a cancellation yet on those, but I ordered from 2 different places. So
the hope is alive.
Yeah,
still.
I ordered 800.
Okay.
So
we'll say that. So you did great with tulips this year. So you don't hate them quite as much. So because of that, how many are you going to grow for next year?
So this
or
year,
how much are you increasing?
I had 3,200, and for this next year, I ordered 6,000. So I doubled.
Do you hear that, you guys?
I doubled.
The tulip hater is now going to be drowning in tulips next year.
But also, I already got one variety canceled from one of my orders, so that's minus 300. So it could
like slowly
it could slowly decrease.
Because another thing about you that's different than me selling retail and how my customers just want like big, bold, bright, cheery spring colors, you're going for a much more specific palette for your florist. And so one thing you tend to not want to receive is substitutes, because you prefer to be a bit more specific on like, but I wanted that tone of pink, not just any pink. Yeah. Whereas I'm just kind of like, as long as it's pink, I'll take the substitution.
Right.
So that matters a bit more to you with florist sales.
Definitely.
Because one pink is not the same pink in florist world.
Yeah. And typically when you get to the point where they're offering substitutes, it's like red. It's like 18 red options, or like a bright yellow, or like black hero, or like,
and you're like, no thanks.
I did one dark color. I think it was like Allison Bradley or something. It was a dark like burgundy double.
How did that do?
Really pretty. The florist didn't want it.
They didn't want it. Yeah,
it
so you're
went
just
to like
gonna
all my
say-
subs and
I don't actually remember from your list. Do you grow mainly doubles for your florists in your variety choices? Or are there a good mix of singles and doubles? Do they like both equally? What do
I feel
florists
like
look for?
they like all.
Okay.
I tried in parrots. I did more of
Right.
a mix this year. Amazing Parrot was one of my favorite ones.
So good.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I tried to make it
And it
pretty
blooms
equal.
a bit later. At
That
least
was my
mine
very
did.
last one.
Yeah, I liked that about them.
Yeah, I like that too. I wanted to try to also make sure we're staggering.
Do more, yeah.
Because it gets like crazy
When
whenever
you're like
you have
16 days of 6,000 tulips. It's not ideal.
yeah, especially when you don't have like a walk-in cooler or anything yet.
And you don't live on your farm and you have 3
extremely
kids.
stressful.
How's that go?
Yeah, it goes pretty
Right.
good. I mean, I was lucky to have the subs because I was able to still offload the stems that way versus like just trying to hustle too much with all the florists, just trying to.
And if
I
the
was
florist
getting
didn't
sales.
like something, it's more likely that a retail customer would be fine with it or be
Yeah.
happy with a color.
Oh,
that
yeah.
you could give them that
Yeah.
the florist didn't pick first dibs.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice to have that fallback.
Yeah.
They're not getting a bad quality. It's just like, well, they didn't really want the dark burgundy.
Yeah.
A retail customer is likely going to just really love
Yeah.
any of those colors. So after the tulips were done, what came next for you? So now we're kind of like end of March, heading into April with bloom times.
Yes. So obviously Ranunculus come in at that
Ranunculus.
time.
Let's talk Ranunculus.
yeah,
So
big
you grow them in a low tunnel.
Yep.
How does that go? Aside from being incredibly laborious,
Yeah,
how does it
it's
go?
a lot of work. That's the negative of it is a lot of work. Just constantly making sure it's not too hot, it's not too cold.
Yeah.
Our winter really wasn't that bad. We had some really cold and windy times around Christmas.
Mhm.
And then
The wind is hard
wind
with
is
the low
worst
tunnels.
part. Yeah. Because
Because when my tunnel's closed, the high tunnel, it's not going to get blown over in a gust.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
low tunnels are at a much
Yeah.
higher risk.
yeah. And this with my third year doing this with the electrical conduit piping, it's a lot higher. And that's what I want for the crops. It's just way better. I also do like a little like 9-gauge wire high tunnels also, but it just doesn't give as much protection. The frost cloth just ends up like sitting on top of it. But so the ranunculus get the nice tunnel. But yeah, when it's windy, it's very hard to keep.
I
the
got a
plastic
lot
on.
of angry text messages when you would do a farm checkup and the frost cloth would just be like flowing everywhere. You're just like, what?
Yes.
You made some really good reels though. Some funny.
That one got like
grouchy-
my most like views ever.
Your complaining reel. Everyone was like, we like this content.
Yeah, I'm like, it's my most successful
Farmer
reel.
in chaos is
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So ranunculus, again, it's a bit similar with your tulips. You're selling to florists
Yes.
primarily because the market is like just getting started at this point. What varieties or color palettes did you choose for ranunculus?
I really did like almost every color other than black.
I mean, you know
year.
how I feel about black ranunculus.
Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't do red either. I did orange, yellow, salmon, pinks,
White.
dark pinks. I did white. I did purples, a dark purple, like purple, picot purple. That was actually
Yeah,
way
that's
more
the one that's
popular.
like two tones.
Yeah, that was way more popular than I expected to be. Even with the florist, they wanted that one because
Interesting.
purple is not usually like a highly sought after color, especially like a darker purple.
True.
But they really liked that one.
What was their favorite? Where you're like,
Salmon, either salmon or the porcelain. They really
I don't
love
know
that
if
one.
florists just need to get more creative or their clients need to increase.
I think
their
it's just
color, because
clients.
everything is salmon and peach.
Yeah.
And beige.
Yeah. I think,
Boring.
yeah, I mean, it's what
But you're
their
like,
clients
whatever, I'm going to
want.
grow it.
Yeah, if that's,
Like
if
my
that's what
people
they
want orange, I'm going to grow orange, even though it's not what I
cut
would pick.
orange. I cut orange for next year.
So that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What are you cutting, and then what are you for sure increasing?
I cut orange. I think that was honestly, I didn't order more of the purple picot.
Just keeping the same amount.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I ordered more of the porcelain and
Okay.
more of
What color
purple
is that
jean.
one? Is that white?
It's like whites and pinks, and then it has like the white
okay.
tips
Oh,
around
I
the
can
edges.
picture it. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really, really
Pretty.
It's beautiful, and I think it's one of the harder ones, or maybe they can't even get it wholesale. So
Okay.
that's what I like to focus on for the florist is like, what can they not get?
Yeah, like
wholesale?
they could probably get a bubblegum pink ranunculus.
Yes, very easily.
But like the Picardy and the like salmone or however you pronounce it, like some of those become
and then just locally
hard
grown
to-
is obviously just like way better quality always. So
since you're in a low tunnel and I'm in a high tunnel, one thing I did notice is we planted, I mean, within a week of each other, pretty much. It was in November. In my high tunnel, I had blooms maybe 10 days before you.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. A high tunnel is a much more babied environment. They had less like wind to deal with primarily is probably why mine grew a little bit faster because there was a little less stress and buffeting.
Yeah.
But by the time your ranunculus got going, you had great quality.
Yeah.
And it went well. It just is tense for a little while.
When it gets really cold and it's like 0 degrees for a few days, like I don't sleep.
Yeah.
It's so stressful.
Did your subs love ranunculus as much as you hoped? Were they just kind of like, oh, okay, next flower?
No, I think they love it. I think you always get comments about like how long the flowers last and just like, I mean, you just can't get better than like how many petals it has and it's delicate and just the vase life is great.
Yeah.
I always get so many good comments on ranunculus.
Yes. So now at this point in our growing spring calendar year, the farmers market have started for you.
Yes.
And so you're bringing ranunculus, some tulips that you've kept in the cooler that are like nearing the end. I assume you had. And then you also had ranunculus. Did you have anything else? You grow more filler and greenery than I do. Did you add anything else for the market bouquets?
So I actually strategically only brought tulips for the first market.
Okay.
So I did have ranunculus.
Spread out the ranunculus?
Yes.
Yeah,
but I kind of made the first weekend like tulip focus, like because I needed to get rid
and like
of
clear
all
out the cooler. Yeah.
I needed to get
rid
rid
of all
the
the cooler sale. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got rid of all the tulips that first weekend, and then we moved into ranunculus. And then
how did those sales go?
Really good. I honestly, so like the first couple weeks, I didn't really have anything else. I had anemones to go with I have anemones in April.
She grows so much more. She needs a list, you guys.
Well, it's in March. Okay. The anemones, I forgot about them a little bit.
You didn't grow as many as I did. I did a lot of anemones.
Yeah. I've been having trouble with anemones.
And yours got aphids, right?
Yep, they got aphids.
That was annoying to
and it's so hard with the low tunnel to get stem length.
Yes.
For me. Even overwintered. I just have a lot of trouble with that. So still working on that. And daffodils in March, so April. Later in April, cress came in.
Okay. And you added that in your jars and your wraps at the market.
Penny cress and orlia came into bloom. So I did mixed bouquets with ranunculus, orlia, and penny cress.
Okay.
And then came in delphinium, agrostemma, larkspur, nigella, and foxglove.
Did you put all of those in farmer markets bouquets, or did some of them exclusively go to florists?
Pretty much all the delphinium went to florists. It got all smashed.
And they love that?
Yeah, they love that. Same with agrostemma, and I don't think agrostemma has a very long base life, so I don't put that kind of stuff into market bouquets. Anything that I'm not sure that is going to at least last like 5 days, then I will not put it in.
That's a good idea.
Bouquet.
Yeah. You want them to be seeing you the next week at the farmer's market saying they just threw their bouquet out, or they still have it.
Or they pass you by and they said, still looks good.
If it's done on a Thursday, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
For retail, yeah.
Larkspur.
Okay. You don't like larkspur now.
I didn't like it.
But you grew delphinium, which is its like older, better sister. So then you're looking at it, you're kind of like,
Yeah. And
it's
for
hard
me,
to...
they're both a spike. So for me, for the future, I just don't think I need to do both. And if delphinium is more sought after by the florist, then I will just do delphinium.
And you had other filler to put in your retail bouquets if you do that next year.
Yes.
You don't have to have larkspur.
Yeah, I don't have to have larkspur. And also, I'm sure probably some of it went to seed and it'll just pop up somewhere. Because
I mean, you probably will never get rid of it, but...
Yeah. like the bachelor buttons. I just have this one patch of bachelor buttons.
Coram patches.
It just comes up in this like one patch, and I just ignore it. Just like
that's where you live now.
Yeah, this is the elephant. This is the bachelor buttonhole right here.
So what were your florist's favorite flowers in April? Like your top sellers?
Agrostemma.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, obviously Ranunculus too, but Agrostemma. Okay. They're obsessed with that, and that was like such a short-lived crop. So like 1 to 2 weeks is basically like your harvest
just
window.
Like cutting it all and selling all the bunches.
I cut it all and sell it all, and I didn't really have that much, and some of it even rotted over the winter. So like I probably had like a maybe 5 foot.
But you're cutting hard on it.
Long thing, and
Are you gonna grow more?
Yeah, I'm gonna grow more, and I'm going to succession. So
can it be? Oh, it can be succession. Yeah. Okay.
So I will fall plant the majority of it because you will just get way more stems. I mean, I was getting like 10 plus stems.
Is it heat sensitive? Like, does it pretty much wind down? Is that why it's such a short-lived thing?
I think it just doesn't like. It sends up all the flowers,
it's just like,
and then you cut it, and then it's done. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're getting,
like, here we are.
If you're getting
all we have for
10 to 15 stems from one plant,
then it's fine.
And I think that's great.
That's fantastic.
Spring planted probably won't be as many stems, but if you're selling all that,
but you can spread it out over three weeks potentially instead of just like a super fast.
Yes, hopefully at least like 3 to 4 weeks to get harvested off of that, and I think it would be definitely super worth it because I had people like asking me as soon as I post the pictures, like many florists were asking me if I had
I don't know this flower really well. Does it come in different colors? Is it largely just okay? So
do
you do all the color
There's bright
range?
colors. There's bright colors.
I think. Do you do the full color range or is there specific?
I only did white, and then there's a specialty Dawn Creek blush that she
of course blush.
Yeah, blush.
Why am I even asking?
Always blush. So I just did those two, but there's like a bright purple.
Will you do different colors, or you just want more of those two?
Yeah, I'll just do those two. Yeah, because again, I won't do them in like retail bouquets.
Because the short vase life, that's right.
Yeah.
And they don't want the bright colors. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're heading, Ranunculus are now done. Like, we get way too hot. Probably by like the third week of April.
Yeah.
We're like cutting the final cuts.
Yeah.
And to me, the final cuts are even like B grade.
Yeah.
Not worth the same amount as the early April type cuts. They're getting smaller. The stems are getting thinner. So towards the end of April, and now we're heading into May, we're panicking about Mother's Day.
Yeah.
What did you have?
Not very much.
You guys, Mother's Day is so hard here. I know in the colder climates, the challenging time is in June, and that's typically when the farms up north plant a lot of perennials to get over that June gap, and then you guys get your summer annuals in July. Our issue is early May through probably like the beginning third week of May. There's probably like a 16 plus day window where it's too hot for spring flowers. It's not warm enough for summer flowers. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I checked the Instagram of like every Oklahoma flower farm that is legit to see what they had grown. It's a bug in your face. I thought you were mad at me.
Why?
But I wanted to look at the other growers that were legit to be like, do you know of a flower I don't know of? And I swear all of our bouquets look the same. Yeah. It was like the same 4 options. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
So what did you have growing?
Okay. So 2 out of the 3 that I know I sold the most of was just like self-seeded stuff that I didn't even
like the self-seeded larkspur and buplurum.
Buplurum.
Yeah.
Tons of that.
I bought buplurum from you to save my butt for Mother's Day. I was like, give me 100 stems.
Yes. So that was just self-seeded that I just kind of like let go. And then Nigella is the other one, Love in a Mist.
Do your florists like that one?
Yeah, they really liked that one. And I like that one too.
The bloom and the pod? Just the bloom? Do you care about the pods?
For the most part, just the bloom. I had one buy some of the pods.
And then the pods look so weird.
I should have dried them. I'm very behind on that. And I don't have anywhere to dry things this year because we're homeless. So, won't be drying anything
your
this
in-laws
year.
Wouldn't appreciate like hanging Nigella from their garage.
I don't think so. I harvested a bunch of stuff for orders tomorrow, and it's like all in their laundry room.
You're like, they got tomorrow.
They got home from the lake, and they're like, "Oh, it's a flower farm in here." I was like, Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
They're
Will you grow more Nigella next year? Will you
so
grow
I just let a
more?
lot of it go. I
To
didn't
go
cut
to
it all
seed.
down, so it's probably just gonna self-seed itself, I think, just over and over
It'll be
again.
a surprise.
And
What you get?
hey, if it blooms for Mother's Day, that's perfect.
Yes.
And I did try to grow it a few times, and it was horrible. So
Okay, so
it
if you
wants to
like
live on
with
its own.
neglect, it
Yeah.
goes well.
Yes,
Okay.
don't try and seed it. Just
Oh yeah, my babied Bupleurum in the rows were like half the size of my reseeded, did not cover it all during the Arctic blast garden Bupleurum. And I was like, okay, so apparently I just have to ignore you guys to get you to do better.
Some things just don't want help. They just want to do it on
leave it alone. Like starting larkspur from seed versus when it reseeds itself, totally fine.
Yeah.
So what were the last like flails of spring? What did you have? Did we not mention? Did we mention everything you grew?
May. We didn't get into May. So I did have some snapdragons. Yarrow was like my biggest one in May.
Mm-hmm.
And I did start having sunflowers in May.
Yeah.
My first early sunflowers, but that's
typically
when it
like the
started
third week of May. Yeah. And then we drowned.
And then
everything
I
rotted.
should have had stalk and straw flower.
Okay.
But yeah, all that drowned.
Okay.
So
let's talk about what was like the absolute winners of spring. Like you look back on your spring season and you're like, this went awesome. I'm going to do it next year. I'm so happy and pleased with year 3 spring for this. And then we'll talk about the negatives.
Yeah, I think tulips.
Yes.
Ranunculus. I really love delphinium. I didn't do as good of a job as I should have with them.
So you fell in love with it and want to do better next year.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
Yes. And agrostemma, honestly, was like, I didn't have a lot of it, but I cut like every single stem I could. Had more. Yeah, I wish I had a lot more. Okay. So those were like definitely the 4 biggest ones. And I really like foxglove too.
Okay. Will you do it again next year?
Yeah, I'm going to do it again next year. Okay. And I'm just going to give it like a little bit more protection than I did because I figured it's a perennial or biennial, like it shouldn't really need protection in our zone. But yeah, it did. Well, I lost a few, I think, because I maybe planted too early and it was too hot.
Yeah.
And they just kind of...
They just kind of timing thing.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try again with foxglove and do more with foxglove because you can get multiple cuts off that too, which I like.
True. Are you so all of the ones you loved? Are you increasing the amounts that you're going to grow for all of them?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
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 It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But also cutting things too.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So those were like the winners. They are going to get to be in year 4 flower farm. Yes. We're going to increase the numbers, all of that. What are you cutting completely? Or maybe are there some things that you're just going to reduce the amount or grow less of, but you still want to have?
Yeah. What would you say? Definitely, I tried carnations this year.
You did?
I did. Yeah.
I didn't hear about them. Did it not go well?
No, it didn't go well. It didn't go well.
Those are hard.
Yeah.
You would think that a flower you see in the grocery store all the time, you would assume like it's super easy. Yeah. Kind of like freesia and that Persian lilies and stuff you see, and it's like actually they're
freesia
are really tricky.
Yeah.
But it's because they're all grown in like hyper controlled greenhouses.
Yeah.
They can be done.
So I got some blooms, but like they were still short, even though I overwintered them. So
that's annoying.
I don't know what happened. Yeah. Maybe they stayed too wet. A lot of things I think were just too wet. So they were not as great fully overwintered as they could have been, I think.
Okay.
What else was I gonna cut?
Yeah, what are you going to cut?
Let me see.
I like talking about things we're going to cut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, larkspur. We kind of talked about that earlier.
You might get some self-seeded, but you're not going to plant your own.
Yeah, that space will be just used for something else because I just didn't love it. And
you're going to do more delphiniums, so you'll be fine.
Once it started raining, it kind of just yellowed out. Like, it was about to
leaves
bloom.
And stuff, it got gross.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I just couldn't even harvest it.
Mine was necessary because it was my Mother's Day and around that time, like it was necessary, but it felt like such a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
That I was like, I planted you in early November and I stared at you for like 5 months and you gave me 10 days.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like I could have used more from you, but I also can't cut it for my usage because I needed it in the bouquet. So it's a bit, I'm annoyed with larkspur, but
I just wasn't happy with it.
So what else is getting the cut or the reduction?
Stock. I just won't grow it in the field again.
Stem length, and avoiding the bloom or being like a dorky bloom.
Well, as soon as it's like, it was looking great, and then as soon as it rained like 2 days in a row, it just died.
Yeah, didn't wait for context. I mean, I know everyone complains about their weather and stuff, but it's different each year and you have problems. For us this year, I feel like there was a 3-week period where we got like 10 inches of rain.
Yeah.
And we have clay, so it's not like sandy wash off. It's like bog mud pit. So the fly likes you.
The fly is attacking
me. Not me. He likes you. My pregnancy hormones are keeping it away. So it just was like a boggy mud pit. And I just think things drowned or rotted.
Yeah.
Or got just like stressed and it just didn't perform.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, honestly, it was like very early on when the rain even started, when the stalk just like,
we're done.
It just literally just died. Like, it turned black and died. And I was like, dang, okay. And then shortly after, all the snapdragons pretty much in that lower field. So I have a field that's kind of like a little bit lower, and our property gets a lot of runoff from the neighboring properties. And it's just, it's only that like few weeks a year that we have that amount of rain.
Yeah, we're like cake dry Sahara Desert, 95 degrees right now. It's like we're either drowning or like a shriveled raisin. There's no like weekly rain. Like when I hear farms that don't put drip irrigation in, like in Wisconsin and stuff.
Or any irrigation.
What is this planet that you grow on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of which, you mentioned snapdragons. You love snapdragons. They do well. Not a great year for snapdragons.
Not for me. Yeah. I had some up in the upper field, which was my first succession that I planted like first week of February.
Okay.
And I got some cuts from that, but they also had some thrips. I was getting thrips also. Yeah. I had thrips and aphids kind of in the early spring, which it wasn't horrible. It was enough to where I could kind of like just dip them in water and get it off. Like it wasn't too much damage. But yeah,
then the rains.
It was like 100 out of probably like at least probably like 1,000 that I had like stocked to around like 1,000 probably that I at least had planted out. I had 2 80-foot rows that was basically all stock and snapdragons, and that was at 6-inch spacing. Yeah, so that's a lot. And the straw flowers drowned too, which I was really sad about.
And you pretty much started most of them from seed, so it was a lot of labor.
Thankfully, I started from seed.
Well, it saved you money, but it was a lot of labor. Like, you were with them for a while, so to have them like fail was just kind of like, ugh.
Especially the snaps, because they just take a long time and they're a lot of work. Yeah,
and they're important for spring. I mean, I sold a lot of snaps.
Yeah,
and they're really important.
Yeah,
so you're gonna do snaps again next year.
Yeah, I won't cut snaps.
And we both are gonna work on in the fall, probably with bed prep, some drainage.
Yes.
Differences in how we form the beds, and maybe kind of like troubleshoot in preparation for April, May rain, and also just severe weather. I mean, it's Oklahoma, and so April and May is when we all get to go in our tornado shelters and do all of that stress.
I just know now I will not plant any of my spring stuff in that lower bed because it's just not worth the risk of the drowning. So I just have to make sure everything will fit in the upper beds that gets better drainage. And I think that was honestly one of my problems this year was just trying to take on too much and grow too much.
Okay. What will be different next year besides just putting it in the upper field? Like from a being too much? Is it because you're going to reduce the varieties that you grow? That it'll feel like you have a better handle on it? Yeah. Because you're increasing all your varieties. Like the quantity you're increasing. Yeah. But your number will go down.
But so like with the tulips, they're like by themselves basically. Yeah, so I don't really count that because they're not like intermingling with any of the other crops really. So once the tulips are done, like then you get other stuff pretty much. So really the only thing that I'll be increasing a ton is the ranunculus, and I'm going to succession those as well. So hopefully
it's not all at once
I can kind of get a little bit of a break. Although my second succession that I did this year, the January planted ones, maybe one like a week after, like maybe 2 weeks.
We say all of this on camera now, and then next year it's going to be like record heat wave, and like there's no succession. It's just like all at once.
It was like I think it was literally 2 weeks the November planted ones versus the January planted ones. It was
So
2 weeks difference from bloom time. And the January planted ones literally just shot up like all the stems at one time.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I have to
Okay.
say, you guys, because like everyone talks, especially on the internet, on Facebook and stuff. You can tell me if you agree with this. Everyone talks in like zones, and
Yeah.
zones tell you so
Yeah.
little information.
Yeah.
It's so regionally dependent. Like Zone 7 Oklahoma is a different planet than Zone 7 Oregon.
Yeah.
So if you just lead with like, where
Yeah.
do you grow? Zone 7, it doesn't tell you that much. And so like
Yeah.
our springs are very different. And so it's very funny for us and like Oklahoma growers when we look at Facebook groups and stuff where like our ranunculus is about to start blooming when people are starting to like pre-sprout their ranunculus corms and other
Yeah.
growing conditions.
Yeah.
I find it always
Yeah,
so weird because
I
our
never-
spring is so early. It's really short.
Yeah.
It just kind
I
of feels like I
never-
don't relate
yeah.
to the rest of the flower farming world
I know.
where it's like
The
early
zone-
March and they're like pre-sprouting and we have like buds.
Yeah.
We're like, what?
You're like, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, you're behind. And
Yeah,
they're
I'm
like,
like,
no.
you should have planted that in November.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another reason it's not helpful if you just look at zone.
Yeah.
Because in Oklahoma, we plant ours in November, early December. You have a chance at a small succession in early January, but after early January, like, it's such a huge gamble,
Yeah.
and you're probably not going to get the most out of the plant. You're going to get like 2 blooms from it instead of maybe the 5 you could have if you planted on time.
Yeah.
But another Zone 7, like Oregon,
Yeah.
you know, could be a totally different scenario. So let's talk about the 2 different ways you sell. We've talked about this, florist and farmer's market. Let's focus on the farmer's market. What went well so far this year? And you can include summer here because you've had like 2 or 3 markets of summer flowers. What went well? What frustrates you, about farmers markets? 'Cause I know you have deep farmers market thoughts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that sales avenue.
Yeah.
In light of everything you grew.
I still like the farmer's market. ...
She
Silence.
pauses with a fake smile.
Yeah, I don't know. Just making bouquets, like, I don't love making bouquets.
Yeah, this is where we're different.
Yeah. So I just...
I have to say this because it cracked me up. So I bought flowers wholesale from Allison. You guys saw for our Mother's Day video, a lot of her flowers were in our bouquets and stuff. And she also has bought some flowers from me, mainly sunflowers, because we just grow so many and Allison hates them. But she needed my sunflowers.
I need it.
But I had to pretend like I was the wholesale farmer and bunch them and count them.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I was just like, so she doesn't like making bouquets. I hated doing the wholesale process. I just think that's interesting. As you're trying to figure out like how you like to sell, how you like to operate, it matters. Like we enjoy processing our flowers in very different ways, which is worth noting.
Yeah.
So you don't like making the bouquets.
And it's just harder. Like,
Yeah. Well, you have to do it late at night after the kids or really early Saturday morning. So your workflow is exhausting. Like by the time you make bouquets, it's hard on your schedule. You're not making them at like 4 p.m. on a Friday.
Yeah.
You're like just getting started at 9 p.m. That's a hard...
Yeah, pretty much. Just
a hard
because,
time.
it'll take me way less time to do things like without distractions than it would if I tried to like get it done during the day.
Right.
But also like we're living with my husband's parents right now because we're going to build on the farm, which is super exciting. They
So
staked
next
it out
year,
today.
we'll do a follow-up video when you're an on-farm
They
farmer.
can come visit.
Yes, I want to be a tour. That would be
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, that'd be super fun. So it's just a very awkward time
The workflow
right now
is
to do that.
just
Like
not...
to have all the stuff in their house and I feel like it's in the way. I don't want to make a mess and it's just like messy.
we're in my place right now and
yeah.
there's just crud everywhere.
I don't have a space to like get messy and get it done. So it's just difficult and
Versus when you're wholesaling, you're stripping the leaves, you're bunching them in the field, you're putting them in the buckets. And so by the time you take them to where you're staying, they're processed and ready to then be delivered. Versus retail bouquets, it's like you're just cutting the stems, but then you still have a whole other process of like recutting stems, making the arrangements, wrapping them.
Figuring
and
out
that's what you have to do.
Your mixture, how many stems you need for how many bouquets you're trying to create for that week. And it's just a lot easier logistically to do
you like
wholesale.
the bunch lifestyle?
I like the bunching, the bunching and getting rid of them that way.
So what else about the farmer's market? Pros, cons? In the last video, which you guys should watch, you set a goal for wanting to eventually phase out farmers markets. Do you still feel that way? Is that still the long-term goal?
Get nervous. Like, I get nervous about it because it is like a sales outlet. And it's like basically it's half my sales like right now.
Okay, I was going to ask you if you knew your percentage.
I think for March and April, well, obviously March, I don't have the farmers market in March. So March and April, it was definitely heavy wholesale, but still really good at the market. Honestly, still probably pretty close to 50-50.
Interesting. Okay.
And right now, market is carrying me. So, because I've just been in between like,
you're recovering.
The last couple weeks have been heavy market because for that, I am able to like get stems from other farms and like incorporate them into my bouquets for the market. I'm not going to buy stems from another farmer and wholesale it to
it's a way to get a retail price on what you have by supplementing like with what I have so that you can sell those other stems.
And there were like, I think like I missed like 5 weekends in a row when it started like raining and everything died. So I still had some stuff that I was selling to florists at that time, but like, I missed like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, which,
Are you thinking assuming you have the flowers, do you think you'll finish out the year at the farmer's market? That's the plan?
I definitely want to finish out. And like the last week, I think I did, it was all mine. It was all my flowers. And like moving forward, I should have plenty. Like the zinnias are going, and then like in another probably 2 weeks, the lizanthus will come, and they just pump out stems like for the rest of the summer. And then I have other stuff coming too.
Yeah, the Lizzies will be a big. So the pros of the farmer's market for you is obviously you're selling through. This is the nice timing thing that I don't have, is that you're selling throughout the week to your florists. You know, you might do a Tuesday delivery, you might do a Thursday delivery. They have all week to order from you. And then Friday, you basically go out to the farm Friday morning, cut the remainder, see what you have in the cooler, and then that gets to go to market. And so you're not losing those stems that maybe the florist didn't buy. It's a color palette they didn't want, or they didn't buy the quantity that you had blooming. And so that goes to retail. So it's not like they're getting bad flowers. They're just getting the remainder of what has bloomed well that week. And so it's a good stopgap. It's an additional sales outlet for you. Versus me, where it's like, I sell on Saturday. If those bouquets don't sell, like it's a wrap. Like you don't sell on Sundays, and I'm not going to hold flowers 2 days and try to sell them on Monday from just an ethical standpoint. It's like I want them to have the freshest, longest lasting. So it's kind of like all of my energy is focused on Saturday, which I like because then I'm not doing a lot of stuff during the week while you're selling to florists. But the downside for me is it's a bigger gamble than when you have the farmer's market to fall back on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because like I was thinking about it also when we were talking numbers about probably like mostly in April, and I'd be like, man, like I feel like I was running around town, like because I had a lot of florist orders, and so I was delivering Tuesday to several places, Thursday to several places, and then I'd be going to the farmer's market on Saturday and just thinking, wow, like I did all that work driving around all the different orders, and I'm still not even touching like how much Alex made in one day on a Saturday. It's like,
but when Alex has a low Saturday and she just sits staring at a bunch of unsold bouquets that are not going to go anywhere, that's the downside of the flower stand.
Yeah, it evens out at some point throughout the season.
Especially in the summer for me.
Yeah, last year we ended up with nearly identical sales.
Yeah, we did.
So we'll see how this year ends up.
We'll see. This is where we get a little competitive
side coming out.
So those are the positives about the farmer's market. Let's talk about the negatives. And a lot of these are universal negatives of farmer's markets. One of them is the super obvious. You have to get up crazy early. Yeah. And you're there sitting for a long time. Yeah. That's just hard. Yeah. And it gets hard. Yeah. Saturday after Saturday.
Yeah. And it was super windy this spring. Like every Saturday was super windy. Or like everyone was trying to keep their tents from blowing away for 4 hours. And now it's just like so hot. So you're just sitting, you're just like melting.
And you're at the mercy of the turnout because of that weather. If it's a bad weather day, you're kind of like, people might not come as much.
Or, there's always a chance there could be storms that morning, and like you won't know until like that day if you spent all that time harvesting, and putting the bouquets together and they cancel the market, like that's it.
Yeah,
that's a
that's
wrap. I don't really have any other way to like sell the bouquets other than if I just like posted them on Facebook or something.
Right, like a neighborhood sale.
Yeah, and I used to do that with extras. Like if we had a storm or something in the neighborhood that I previously lived in for like almost 8 years. So I did have people that would come purchase those, but like I don't even have that to fall back on anymore.
Yeah.
So.
And then now we've entered into summer. So spring, you were like largely the only show in town at the market from a like the other produce farmers and stuff. They don't typically do spring flowers.
Yeah.
But in the summer, the veggie farmers show up with their direct seeded nonsense. Yeah. And it becomes harder.
With their gladiola sticking straight up the top. That's my favorite one.
It's probably red too, right?
I don't know, but no, it'll be like one gladiola sticking straight up the top, and then like 4 giant sunflowers, and then like 10 red zinnias around the bottom, and like that's the bouquet. And
all you just see is like pollen dust wisping behind.
I just see these little spiky things going through the market. And I'm like, it reminds me of the middle finger. Just like, it's to me. It's the middle finger to me personally.
Farmers are just like, think you're the only show in town now, lady?
Yeah.
You have red flowers.
But huge, just huge bouquets of sunflowers and zinnias, and you just get that. Like, I'm sure it's the same at every market. Yes. Like, most people can grow a zinnia and a sunflower in our climate. It's very easy. Throw the seeds.
It's strategic for them, like they're loss leaders. Yeah. It's an increased sale. It brings people to their stand. Like there's a reason why they do it, and we get it, but you know, it would be like you bringing some of your backyard tomatoes and selling them for 50 cents. Yeah. They would be like, that's not even profitable. Yeah. That's not a very good tomato. You know, it's kind of that equivalent.
That would be annoying to them, I'm sure, if I started selling veggies.
What's a middle finger vegetable that you could grow to sell that your people could parade around?
What can I make like a vegetable array of that like a jalapeno, like jalapeno sticking out the top?
Like 10 cents. You'd be like, I could play this game too.
That's not even a bad idea. If I could make like an arrangement of vegetables, like in a certain like,
if you do it, you have to make.
People would buy it.
I mean,
it'd
they
be
probably
fun.
would.
It'd be fun.
And then they could go to the veggie farmers and be like, well, that table's selling their veggies for 10 cents. Why aren't yours 10 cents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun conversation. That's a fun conversation when you get, how much are your bouquets? And there's a sign that says it right there. And you get an eye roll. But you know what?
Yeah. But that's the thing about farmers markets. Clearly, it's like, and from my flower stand too, in the amount of sales we're having is like, it's so clear that 60 to 70% of the revenue happens in spring. Yeah. And then you have like a 30, maybe 40%, but it's over the course of more months than just like our 10-week spring. Yeah. It's like 4 months of summer. Yeah. Gives us the other 30-40%. So it's just slower. It's a bit harder. Yeah. The sales goes down. You know, like our stand is so much slower than it was in spring. You know, like we don't have lines anymore. We're not selling out in an hour. You know, we're hitting our goal numbers to reach our like big revenue goal, but I mean, it's like things go off the buying habits kind of go off a cliff. And I think that happens at a farmer's market.
Yeah. I will say all my bouquets this week had white sunflowers, either white night or white light. Yeah. And I just had very few orange ones. But so all my bouquets basically were all white sunflowers. And I just had status in there and some zinnias and just like a few other little things maybe. And I really liked that because I felt it was way different than what...
Because they probably all had yellow sunflowers.
They all had yellow sunflowers in their bouquet. So I felt that was maybe smart that mine looked way different.
And in a couple weeks, you'll have Lizzie's. And there's no way they're going to have Lizzie's. So that'll be a differentiator.
I hope not.
Imagine. You can't direct sow Lizzie's. So we're just going to say yes, they're not going to have a... That'll be a differentiator. Yeah. And a talking point of like, what are these flowers? And you're talking about the base life and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I anticipate our sales going up with
last year, I think I only had 1 week of Lizzie's because a lot of them were selling to the florist in advance. But the 1 week that I was bringing Lizzie's to the market, people were like coming to find me for
You grew more Lizzie's this year than last year.
Yes.
Do you think you'll, because of that, have more for the market?
I hope so.
Or do you think the florists will gobble them up?
I hope I have
you
more
want
for
them.
market.
Okay.
Yeah, I want them for
I mean,
market.
if you sell them, you sell them. It doesn't matter how,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, the retail price
but,
is
yeah,
nice,
you
but
get more from retail.
true.
But yeah, hopefully,
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be colors that are more popular than others.
Yeah.
Always are. So
as of now, like mid-June, do you think you'll do farmers markets next year? Is there something that needs to happen between now and the fall for you to say, or winter to say, like, I'm just not going to do it?
I don't know.
I know it's super hard to let go of.
I won't say no probably until
Yeah, like, when's your cutoff?
like I probably won't know until like right before, honestly.
Yeah, like when the application's due or wherever.
The application's due. I think you can start in like honestly right after market's over. I think you can like sign up for the next, at least apply.
But like when they
apply
pick
for the next
is
one.
what, like February, January?
Yeah, I think it was like honestly like February or March even. It was pretty close to the start of the season. I think a lot of it is honestly going to depend on if our house is done or not.
Because if your house is done, you have more options to offload those stems in a way that you don't now.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's probably happening.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah,
we'll
as long as, I mean, our build is supposed to take about 7 months. So I'm going to tell them as soon as that first tulip
you're like, we are on a flower farming
better be
schedule. Construction guys
be
are going to be like, the due date is the tulip blooming time? What?
Yeah, they're already like, the builder and everyone is like, oh, you're going to be out there like every day. I'm like, yep. And I will know if nobody is coming out there to work and I'll be like, hello, where are the workers?
Shoot. They're going to love you.
Yeah, we have a neighbor that's right behind us that I talked to too. Her house they just built theirs right behind us. And she texted me a picture today of like this, I don't know if it's surveyors or the dirt work people. They were putting out the stakes for where the house is going. She's like, who are these people? I'm like,
it's happening.
Just put out the stakes, but
that's so exciting.
Bye.
That's amazing.
Yes. So hopefully it will be ready by March. That's the ultimate goal. Like by the time the tulips start blooming, because we're going to have a built-in cooler also. And I just will need it for that.
Amazing. I'm so excited.
But yeah. So we'll have
year 4 videos and you're going to be like, how did I ever survive not living on my farm?
I got to go back and watch the rest of Alex's videos again about how to build up a following.
I'll teach her how to actually do social media that she hates. Yeah. And to do a flower stand, which I think you could totally kill.
I honestly don't know. Like our property is really not set up to have like what you guys have every weekend. Like especially in the spring, like a line. Like I don't even know how I could set that up on our property.
Tricky with your layout.
Yeah.
And just what your husband might want and all that.
Yeah. I don't even know if I'd want.
But you could still consider a bigger subscription with pickup. And then you have a stand that's like the pickup location instead of having, an alternative and build this. I know you don't love subs, but it would be a way around.
True.
Staying on farm, pick up on farm.
These are the things we think about and chat about like every single day over the winter.
This in the winter,
We'll literally talk to each other every single day.
This is a January problem.
Yeah.
Okay, let's conclude our florist talk here.
Yeah.
What went really well with the florist? What do you want to do? Now the fly found me.
He's down there.
What do you want to, like, what's a goal of yours to improve your florist sales? Like, how do you think you can increase sales or, the good and bad of your florist experience so far this year?
I think I still need to grow more of like specific colors and varieties of things.
Okay. Because you'll get work, you'll send out your availability, and then the florist will be like, do you have 10 bunches of white agrostemma? And you're like, well, I have white agrostemma, but I don't have 10 bunches. So that's what you want to try to solve.
Yeah. I want to have more of like just specific things that I know that they love. Like, because I have like almost 20 people, I think, on my email list, which I don't sell to that many people, but during that springtime when it's like so busy and like people are inquiring like constantly, like I want to be able to fulfill that.
And you want to do the whole order. You don't want to say to them like, well, I can do 5 bunches and then they have to reach out to like 2 or 3 other farmers to fill out that 10 bunch. You want it to just be like, I can go to Allison and she can do the whole thing that I need. Yeah. That would be a good
definitely. Yeah. That's definitely like one of the goals. Like I need to cut things that aren't going to give me like a bulk amount of stems.
Yeah. What about the way you send your availability list? Do your florists like that? Is that going well? Do you want to change it? I know sometimes they can get annoying in how they want to order, but do you feel like it's a smooth process that you have?
Yeah, I really like the email. I like the email list. That is going well. I personally need to be more consistent with it because like in that time where I just didn't have that much when all the stock and the snaps and everything died, like I wasn't sending anything for like weeks on
end.
end.
Just wanted to like crawl in a hole.
And then they're, emailing me asking me like, what do I have for this date or what am I going to have for this date? And I'm just like, oh, I don't have anything.
Right.
I hate saying that. So, I need to be more consistent with that and just.
But the email works. You don't see yourself going the like co-op route, the rooted farmer route. You really like your direct comms of a weekly availability list.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I still get people messaging on Instagram, which is fine too. But like even the people that I chat with on Instagram, they'll respond to my emails and do the orders that way.
Okay. And do you do just a payment invoice like through Square when you drop off? How do they usually pay you?
Most of them do through Venmo, but some through Square also, like invoices.
At drop off?
No.
Beforehand?
No, I usually do after.
Okay.
Maybe like a day after.
Have you ever had florists where they just aren't happy with what you gave them? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
No.
Have you ever had like an issue where they're like, nah, this isn't what I wanted?
No.
That's awesome.
No. And there's things that I have been nervous about in the past just because I don't specifically know, like, if things have been in the cooler for, my cooler for a week and like it's fully bloomed out and I'm still selling that, I will follow up with them. Like a few days later, I mean, like, were those okay? Did they do fine? And like, I will follow up with them just to be sure like it was like what they wanted it to be.
So that's good reputation you're building then. That's like good quality that when they buy from you, they're not like, it's a crapshoot. What we're gonna get, or like what the quality. Yeah, you don't want that reputation.
Throw some of them away,
you don't want to be the one where they order and they're like, well, we order from her, but like we have to throw 30% away, or something like that. Would not. That would not be good.
No.
Okay. Is there anything aside from growing more of what they want that you think you can do to increase sales next year to florists to kind of get past that 50% mark, or is it kind of like it'll just grow naturally with your working with them longer term, that they'll order more from you?
I think getting the walk-in cooler is going to be
life-changing.
It's going to be life-changing because I will be able to hold things longer.
Yes.
I will have more space to hold things longer, like the tulips. So you can hold tulips for, several weeks.
Yeah, you hold Ranunculus.
But I just didn't have the space to hold them in. So I was having to offload them whichever way I could, like selling on Facebook, porch pickups,
and like all small orders that are really inefficient.
Yeah.
Like selling 2 bunches is so hard to make it worth the loading the kids in the car and driving across town to sell like 2 bunches. And you're just like, it would be so much better if I could hold this and sell like 10 bunches to one person in a week.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I did one weekend where I posted on like the Bixby buy sell trade page.
Yeah.
Like I had bouquets. And it was such an energy suck of like communication with people.
Retail hater.
Well, it's just like the back and forth of communication. Like literally all day, I felt like all I did was look at my phone and was trying to communicate with people, calculate how many bouquets I needed to make. Like we were going to my son's soccer game, and then I had to like keep track of how many more I had to make when I got home, and it was just like way too overwhelming.
That's how I feel on our subscription Wednesdays. I'm just like constantly refreshing Messenger because I'm like, who's having a problem? Like, did something happen? Did the payment, like, did something happen in the stand? I don't know, but I want to get a camera to solve that problem. But I'm just constantly like message refresh. And so then on Saturday, I like put them out there and kind of walk away. But,
that's way better because I just like, that was so overwhelming. Just like be constantly on my phone. I don't like doing that.
You like your one communication with one florist for that delivery.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, retail, like difference of what you like.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. And we're probably, can't say never, but I highly doubt we will ever sell to florists, especially because of our location. Like you're at least a bit closer to these florists. Yeah. If I ever wanted to like encroach on her territory, it's like a 45 minute drive one way. That would be really hard to do unless they were buying like big like truck orders. I feel like I'm not doing an hour and a half for 3 bunches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk here briefly about what does the rest of the summer look like for you and into fall with your goals and what you're growing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I have definitely like a weekly sales goal that I'm moving back up towards.
Okay.
After
The florist
after
and
May.
market, yeah.
Yeah. And then hopefully that will get me to like the ultimate goal of the year. I mean, really just summer is honestly just getting started. Like the summer stuff is just getting started. So we have so much time. We have
But it's also so hot.
July, August. I know. It's so hot. July, August, September, even into October. So we're talking like 4, 8, 12.
Well, since
like
the babies do like
more weeks.
literally the week of first frost, I feel like it's such a mental countdown.
Yeah.
I'm just like, when the season's over,
You'll be ready to shut it down.
One thing you do grow differently, I will say in summer that I don't, is dahlias. You don't grow a ton of them because they're a PIA.
Yeah.
But you do have some.
Not very many. Not very many left. Not very many left.
Are you going to do more next year, like what you tried to do? Or are you just like, are they slowly dying in your mind?
So I have one more thing I'm going to try. I think I'm going to try. And it still may not be successful, but I think I'm going to try grow bags.
Okay. And these dahlias are just for your florist, very specific colors, exactly what they want, just for wholesale. This is not a farmer's market. Because I think I would have such a hard time with you doing that. I'd be like, it's so inefficient. Yeah. But for florists specifically.
Yeah. So a lot of them rotted with all the rain. And I even planted them like probably like a month before even all the rain started.
That's hard.
My farm is just not, the spot is just not great for dahlias. But I have one in a giant pot and it's thriving. I just got my first cut off of it.
They're not dead to you.
They're not dead to me yet.
But they're probably your biggest summer struggle.
Yeah, they're the hardest struggle.
What do florists like to buy from you in summer and fall? Because retail is easy, but what's
obviously salmon zinnias.
This is worth noting. I grow only Bennery.
Yeah.
And some queen, just because Eric really likes them and they're different. But I grow mainly Bennery. You don't grow any Bennery. Why?
No. I cut them because they're just, I don't know, they're so big.
We don't hate on them too much.
They're so big. It's harder for the florist to design with them because they're so big.
They're too big for the florist.
And they just take longer to grow, and I don't feel like they produce as much.
They don't produce as many stems. So you like Oklahoma.
I like Oklahoma, so the majority of what I planted this year is
hated on Oklahoma in our previous video.
Yeah, I did Oklahoma salmon, Oklahoma pink, Oklahoma ivory and white.
Floret.
I did some floret. I lost a bunch of the floret ones just when my fabric blew over.
Hard spring.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a mess. But I reseeded a bunch more of those, so I have them coming, and I think it'll be fine. I think the plants will end up being like way healthier. Yeah, because it'll be way less rain and stress.
You won't have the leaf spot that I do because they're not going to be sitting in the moisture like mine were. So maybe that'll be a blessing. Yours will be like super primo when mine are like, we're done.
So if you need zinnias later in the season, I'm going to have a lot.
All right. So zinnias, your florist will buy. They're great for retail.
Zinnias,
what else do you have?
A lot of them love, well, not a lot, but like majority of them, shockingly, basil, lemon basil. Like
lemon?
Every single week.
I like lemon basil.
They would buy the lemon basil every single week.
Awesome.
Celosias.
What color?
Flamingo feather was the most popular.
That makes sense because that's like the more muted tones.
Blushy. Blushy. It doesn't get blushy until like September though. It's more just like white. It has very little color when it's super hot.
Isn't it like the temperature?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but they still really like that.
Okay.
And I did a lot more celosias this year than I did last year.
Okay.
Last year I did some of the floret ones and flamingo feather, and I had like a purple one that of
like
course
a
the florists, like a purple.
You can put them in retail if your florists don't want them.
Yeah, they were pretty much all used to retail, but I did lots of colors this year.
Awesome.
Yeah, I did like the Selway salmon, Selway terracotta, the sylphid, which is like kind of like a lemony color.
Interesting. I actually have terracotta and salmon.
Yeah,
I didn't want them, but I have them. We'll see what I think about
them.
If you need them, I have way more than is acceptable.
Yeah.
To grow. Okay. Do you do marigolds?
I didn't do marigolds last year, and I regretted it because I did see a lot of the florists buying them too, and I think they're great for retail also.
Okay.
So, yep, I did a bunch of orange, and I did the white swan again, which they're not doing all that great.
They're hard.
Yeah.
I don't love them.
They're not doing all that great.
They show damage really easily too,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
rough. Okay.
Marigolds. Trying to think
And do
what
you
else.
do you keep successioning so you have premium ones in the fall?
I
Or are
did
you
it
pretty
last
much
year.
done planting?
Last year,
I'm done planting.
Yeah, last year I pretty much did like one main succession for everything, and I did not. Well, I direct seeded a second succession of zinnias, like the first week of June, and they were like in full bloom by mid-July. Like I went on vacation in mid-July, and I came back, and they were just like completely
You're like what?
Yeah, they were already
So you
like
just
going
cut
back
really hard on your plants, and they just keep reflushing.
I think so. Yeah, like I just kept cutting and cutting on them, and like, but yeah, by September, like it was really hard to find good blooms. Like I was searching for good blooms.
Yeah, September's hard.
Yes.
We do mainly so what we do is I succession plant to have everything primo through the first weekend in August, and then we mow everything down and we take August off, and then September and the first 2 weeks of October is sunflowers and celosia, so that I don't have to like limp them along.
Yeah.
But that's our schedule and what we work on. We mentioned we overlapped a bit with Lizzie's, but Lizzie's for us bloom end of June into July. Obviously the answer is like apricot and blush and white and stuff. But how many Lizzie's are you growing this year? Ish.
I got 6 trays of 125, so I think
so math.
So 800.
Did you do all 3 groups? So in theory there should be some staggering?
Yeah, I did. So right now, definitely Celeb Neo Beige and Voyage Gold, I think are definitely the front runners.
Okay.
I'll have to look back and see if those are group 1s or not, and see if they're being true to the group.
Because mine are being kind of weird. She's here at 7 o'clock in the evening. The kids are doing their own thing. But after we film, we always do like a little tour of my farm and chat. And I have to show you.
Yeah, I can't wait.
You have to give me your opinion because I did group 1 and 2. And it's interesting to see what's happening.
And I feel like
it's a true succession or if it's an Oklahoma succession, which means 6 days apart.
Yeah,
you're just like,
that's the thing, like with our climate, like it's so hard to truly succession because we don't have like true seasons.
Yeah, how some people have Lizzie's in like end of August, and I'm like, that'll never happen.
Yeah.
I don't think it could ever, because we couldn't plant when it's cool enough for them to not bloom all the way into August. I don't feel like that's possible. Like with how quickly we heat up, because I have to plant them when it's cooler. Yeah. Like we have to plant them by March.
Yeah.
So they're not going to hold out until August. I don't think we could ever get that staggering.
Like or people that like plant in the summer to get like fall snaps and stuff. I just don't think that's possible.
Like just leave them; they'll give you a second flush. It's like no, they will not live through July and August.
They just crumble.
100%. The Johnson grass and crabgrass is like, thank you for these holes. Yeah, we will enjoy being irrigated.
And then that happens, and you're like, there's just too much other stuff going on. You'll try and like baby along a snapdragon.
And they'll be thin and dorky, and you're like, I just don't have time for this.
Yeah,
like, just plant. It would be better to plant that, to flip it and plant more zinnias than it would be to baby a second flush.
Yeah.
Okay, so to conclude, let's talk about real fast, what is our timeline for thinking about 2025 when it comes to primarily spring? Like when, like on the calendar timeline, when are you starting to crop plan? When do you start ordering plugs and seeds? Kind of slot the rest of the year for planning, because we've already started talking about next year, which is funny because like you said, summer is kind of just getting cranking, but we've already ordered a bunch for spring. Yeah, we're about to start ordering more things. So
and you have to, like, basically when something is blooming, if you want like your top choices on for the next season, you have to know what you want and be like ordering that and in that time. So
tulips are done, anemones and ranunculus are done.
Yep.
What are we about to start doing?
So now we're just trying to basically make our plans for like fall planting.
Yes.
So that's
fall
like the main
planted
thing.
seeds and then fall planted plugs.
Yeah.
We need to start deciding like in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Again, so that you get more for her than for me exactly what you want. Like we talked about the substitutions with tulips. Like I have a little bit of wiggle room of like tone of pink, whereas like for Lysianthus, for example, like you would really want a much more specific, or a delphinium, you would want a much more specific. So right now we're working on our Like our texts are not really about summer flowers right now. They're like, I think I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. You know, this Snapdragon at this time. So we're already thinking about fall planting for ordering plugs. We like to order from Farmer Bailey as much as we can. I think we both like his ordering platform. I find it to be just the actual website itself really easy to use. It's great to order from. I really like Grow and Sell, which is who they primarily work with. I always have had great quality plugs from them. They ship them well, they ship them on time. So we kind of prefer Farmer Bailey. If we don't have our act together when Farmer Bailey goes live, you know, for that ordering, we then have to go to other places. And I think that's when it gets a little more frustrating. So we want to really have our act together. I think you said July is when he opens up fall ordering.
Yeah, like July 1st. So it's soon.
Yeah. So we have to start thinking, what are we going to plant in November and December, basically. We don't plant a lot in October because it's often still too hot during the day for things. So really we need to think about what's going in November and December.
Yeah.
And then come August, September, we'll start thinking about what do we need to order to plant January, February, March.
Yeah.
Typically.
And I feel like we're both on the same page in that, like, trying to cut back on, like, fall planting stuff.
Yes, talk about that.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
It's like you're finishing the season and you're just like, now you have to immediately go into like prepping the beds and like, and honestly, like still in the season, like before we even get frost, obviously. So, but you have to like get all your,
and for
you have to seed start and get all your plants going and then make sure you have space to plant them.
And you're flipping the beds, you're prepping the beds.
And it's still 100 degrees outside.
Yep. September is still in the 90s for us.
It's still so hot. And just what I've found mostly is that the quality of the flowers planting in February versus October, November for specifically our climate is not very much different for most things.
That's one thing I will say that I've learned from talking with Allison and observing. I planted, specifically this year, I planted a lot in November and some in December that she planted in early February. And I tended to plant in like March and then in November and then in March, whereas Allison did most of her work in February. And I think I'm going to make kind of some of those adjustments. There'll be some things, and I'll make future videos about our specific crop plan, but I'm going to do some things in November and December, but I'm going to shift it to be much more weighted to February and early March before the spring season starts, because that's where I screwed up. Is a lot of my plantings, and I was receiving plug shipments like the week tulips were blooming, the week ranunculus was starting, and it's just like I can't be harvesting thousands of stems and be planting trays and trays of plugs at the same time. I need to come up with a better stagger, and I think your schedule is much better for that. So that was a good learning thing.
Yeah, if you can get all that stuff in, but like you do still have to use frost cloth and protection to get them established.
But there's a difference between planting in early February and doing frost cloth for 6-7 weeks. Yeah. And doing it from like Thanksgiving until March from a later perspective.
Because I remember like I don't remember exactly when I got my Snapdragon plugs and all that, but I'm assuming it was sometime in October. And like literally the next week we were getting like a decently hard frost, and so like I was having to get the frost cloth out like already and immediately get it all covered. And then it's just stressful because like when you're just planting them, you don't want them to get like frosted that hard.
That's a good point, because what Oklahoma loves to do is we love to get our first frosts tend to be like hard killing freezes. Like we don't get like a 31, we get like a 25, and then they're like, just kidding. And then we don't get another frost until
back into the 70s.
Yeah, we don't get another frost for like 3 weeks. So it's just like, we're going to kill everything, and then we're going to be warm and balmy for another 3 weeks. Yeah. And so if we could just avoid.
And then just like give it a great environment to grow, and then hard freeze again. It's just like, how
nice try. This is cattle country. This is not for flowers.
Yeah. So if we can avoid that for like a lot of things that like just things that I found this past winter that were hardy enough to handle that, like without too much babying, I will still do fall successions. My hope is that I can do like, you know, like pick one, like this is going to be my agrostemma row. I will plant half of it in the fall and half of it in February. And so like you'll get the successions. And then if something happens and like all of your fall dies or whatever, like you still have that space for the spring planted.
Like we've talked about a bunch of things we learned here in year 3 that we didn't know in year 2 that will then change year 4.
Yeah.
And like things will keep getting more dialed in.
Yeah. I feel like I'll never have like, this is what I'm going to do every single year. Like I'm always going to want to change stuff and like grow different stuff. And this
is again where we're different. I want to like robotically be like, this is what I do on this date, and we shall heretofore never change. And Allison will be texting me, and she'll be like, look at this, and it's a picture in a catalog, and I'm like, no, do not care. But it's different personalities.
You're gonna add more stuff this year.
You're trying to convince me to put delphinium in the tunnel, and part of me really wants to, but then another part of me is like, I can't sell delphinium trees in my retail market bouquet. Because I see some of them, they're like this.
Just like the gladiolus, just stick it right in the middle. Just stick it right in the
spring middle finger flower.
Yeah. A beautiful blue.
Stick it right in the middle. Perfect. All right, guys. I hope this is a helpful discussion. I find it really valuable to have a flower friend that is in a similar climate to me. So we're dealing with the same struggles and issues, but we also are far enough that we're not hyper competitive or there's any of that awkwardness that I know is just hard to get out of your mind, and it's the reality, and I don't think you should fight it. I think the distance is valuable in our friendship, and I'm thankful for it. So I think you guys should find your own flower friend to be texting and troubleshooting and all of this. But I also hope it was helpful listening to a conversation of how we farm very differently. We are in the same year, same climate, generally the same revenue, and we do things very differently. And so I think that should be encouraging in finding what you like to do, what works for your customers in your area, your preferences, your family goals, all of that. You can hit the same sales goals and the same profitability by looking pretty different. And that's kind of where we shake out. But again, watch the other interview if you missed it. I'll link it, and give Allison a follow on social media, especially on Instagram. And especially if you sell to florists or wholesale, it would be worthwhile to watch what Allison posts, because then you can see like the colors and the flowers that she's growing that you know are selling well to florists, and that might be something to emulate in a way that if you are selling retail, my flowers would be a bit of a better match, or at least my colors, my color choices and all of that. But thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I'm about to go give her a tour of my farm, and she can give me all her opinions of my large Bennery zinnias that are out there.
Cut it.
Cut it.
Get it?
Too big. Trash. Terrible. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I'm going to go show you a obnoxiously orange flower right now.
Oh.